Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn a great loss to the MMA fandom. 79.99. One of the cornerstones of mixed martial arts since the very beginning. It pains me deeply to say this, but today, it was yesterday, we lost the MMA pay-per-view forever. I know, it's unthinkable to have lost it so soon and with such suddenness, but sometimes in life, the greatest things happen when you least expect them. We did it, guys. We collectively pirated enough events to finally kill the viability of pay-per-view.
Turn it on Saturday, streamers, and see what happens. We got them.
Everybody grab yourself a drink and let's party. It's a celebration. It's gone. We did it. I can't even believe it. Okay, while you're popping the champagne, and jokes aside,
Goose Fraba.
I'm sure you heard the news yesterday that the UFC finally got their new rights deal completed, and even the most locked in among us had absolutely no clue this one was coming. Because the new home for the UFC is not a renewal with ESPN, it's not headed for Netflix like many of us speculated after the deal parent company TKO made with the WWE to be on that platform for Monday Night Raw. No, the new home for the UFC is its old home, at least spiritually, as Paramount, who of course were the owners of Spike TV, the original home for the promotion on cable, starting with The Ultimate Fighter.
But you were the first to take a risk on this sport.
Yep.
Why the UFC?
The UFC seemed like a sport, that was on the rise.
And here we are yet again in league with the brand, but on a much larger scale. A $7.7 billion deal.
Paramount and TKO striking a landmark 7-year, $1.1 billion a year agreement.
And in a configuration that none of us could have imagined. Shit, forget your Kaposas and stuff not having the foresight to see this coming. The key players didn't either. In 48 hours, this came together.
Whether it was the marketplace that was the bidder in many different configurations. It came together in 48 hours.
The company they made the deal with technically didn't exist until like a week ago. Paramount just recently got approval from the FCC for an $8 billion merger with their partner Skydance and got a new CEO, David Ellison, who a week after getting the job made the biggest deal in MMA history by putting the entirety of the UFC product, every event, on their streaming service Paramount Plus.
We are focused on one thing, which is truly long-term value creation. And then we're really going to invest into our growth areas like studios and streamings and sports.
Why is pay-per-view the old model?
It's antiquated. It's just an antiquated model. What's on pay-per-view these days? Here, just think of this. If you take their ad platform as it stands now, it's $8. It's $8 and you get all of the UFC included.
Yeah, that intro wasn't a joke. Pay-per-view is dead in 2026. All you need is Paramount Plus, and you can watch every single UFC event all year long. Some of them will be on CBS even, so you wouldn't even need their service for the biggest shows. You just need a TV that supports broadcast. That's not even cable. With 12 to 13 pay-per-view events a year on the current ESPN deal, for the events by themselves, not even including ESPN Plus, you were looking to spend over $1,000 as a fan to watch the entire UFC product, and now it's gonna be about $150 for the year, at least at their current pricing. Plus you get to watch like South Park and Tom Cruise and stuff. I can tell you, as a major sports fan, I watch football, basketball, baseball, all that stuff. I never really used ESPN Plus for anything beyond UFC. They just did not have much of anything worth watching on there. So the fact that this Paramount Plus deal lets me also watch like Beavis and Butthead, for me, is a big plus.
Maybe you should stick your wiener in the bug zapper.
They have a lot to offer beyond the events with that streaming service. And while teaming up with Paramount certainly wasn't on anybody's bingo card,
is this where you thought you were going to end up at like a month ago?
No, I didn't think this is where we would end up, but this is sort of how it played out.
The idea that pay-per-view might be dead is absolutely nothing new. Last year, we were speculating about the end of pay-per-view based on the words of TKO president Mark Shapiro at a media conference last May. But he really did lay it out back then exactly as it would go.
What he did was he got on a call about how the ESPN deal is coming to an end in 2025. So if you're trying to launch an ESPN flagship and whatever they might call it, that's the working title. And if you're trying to charge $29, maybe $39, whatever that might be, it might be better to have a monthly quote unquote pay-per-view that sits exclusive to that platform. So what he's literally outlining here is what could be the actual death of pay-per-view.
That's what TKO, as we've envisioned it a long time ago, is built.
So this was always the hope of the brand, to be able to get a deal big enough to get out of the pay-per-view market. They could see the writing on the wall. In a New York Times interview after the announcement, Shapiro said, quote, "Simply the price was too high," and implied that the $80 pay-per-view investment was one of the main reasons for rampant piracy. Now, TKO doesn't itemize the revenue from the promotion enough in their earnings reports for us to know how much they were making on the year for pay-per-view. It gets lumped into media rights and content, but we could see that in 2024 they were bringing in $879 million in that category, and on average over the course of this 7-year deal with Paramount, the UFC will be bringing in $1.1 billion per year, more than compensating for their loss of pay-per-view revenue, whatever that might have been. Now, what's interesting about this deal getting made is that Disney, who of course owns ESPN, the UFC's current broadcast partner, showed in their earnings reports that the UFC's pay-per-view sales are down. And remember, they had an exclusive 6-month negotiation period for the UFC's broadcast rights this year that came and went. So if business isn't exactly booming, why in the world did Paramount fork up that kind of cash?
That's the eternal question in sports. Sports rights are extremely expensive. It's very difficult to make your money back, but there's a larger play here. David Ellison needs to announce himself as a new owner. He wants to make some big splashy deals that will tell everybody that he is here to win.
It really is incredible when you think about it, how perfectly positioned the UFC has been over the years to get these massive deals. By the end of their time with Fox Sports in 2018, they'd hit a bit of a lull period with Conor and Ronda out of the picture at the time, and as such, Fox was unwilling to give the UFC anywhere near what they were hoping for with a new deal. But new management at ESPN and a new streaming platform that needed a big subscriber surge positioned the UFC for, at the time, the massive deal that they got.
ESPN wouldn't cover us, not too long ago, and now we're on ESPN. We're in business with Disney, probably the most monumental thing that has happened in the history of this company.
And here we are 7 years later, and it happened again. That damn Dana White keeps tripping and falling into gold mines. Okay, so we know Paramount is taking a calculated risk, and we know this is great for the UFC. A big bump in guaranteed cash, no more worry about selling pay-per-views, and their product available on a platform with 3 times the subscribers of ESPN Plus, and their biggest events will be aired on CBS. I mean, this could bring so many potentially new fans to MMA just by the ease of access and larger exposure alone. And this deal could get even bigger, as Paramount will get an exclusive window to offer for all of the UFC's rights deals outside the US going forward. But what about the implications for the fighters and us, the fan?
What's implication mean?
Well, it's tricky when you think about the fighters, particularly the ones at the very top of the card. Now, we know that the UFC isn't exactly notorious for their revenue-sharing generosity, but the question becomes, what happens to pay-per-view points?
You become a champion, you're making great money, but once you get that door, you get pay-per-view points, just so the fans know. First 0 to 200,000, it's 0 buys. From 200,000 to 400,000, it might be $1. Then from 400 to 600, it goes to $1.50 or maybe $2.
Yeah, once you get over 600,000, now the money's just jumping.
Definitely an aspect of this whole thing that could end up really bad for the promotion's biggest stars. Not to mention, do they mean as much in a world where subscriber numbers are all that matters to the people giving the UFC the majority of their money? I'm sure we'll see in the coming years how fighters are compensated, and if a lack of star power becomes even less of a UFC concern. But if history is any indication, the athletes will be on the low end of this as per usual. For the fans, this is one of the rare times that corporate interests and public interests aligned somehow. This is the best possible outcome for us. The pay-per-view model was absolute Stone Age shit, and a secondary charge that was that massive every single month on top of the stupid ESPN Plus subscription just to have access to the UFC sucked. And it's why so many of you opted for the pirate life. But right now, Paramount Plus with ads is $8 and ad-free is $13. And with that, you get literally everything the UFC has to offer all year long in high quality without the hassle of having to fortify your computer like you're gearing up for a Silk Road shopping spree just to watch fights on some shady site that stream crashes as soon as the main event starts. Now, will those Paramount prices go up? Yeah, every single streamer ups their prices pretty regularly. And could the UFC totally be like, hey, Conor's coming back. Remember Conor? He's big. So for this special event, you're gonna have to pay $100 extra. Yeah, they might. I would not put that past them whatsoever. But I think largely what we're getting here is an evolution of their business model. And and one that has probably flatlined pay-per-view for good, because it was already on life support as it was. So yeah, I'm gonna be dancing on that damn grave right alongside all of you, because we finally got rid of the most antiquated aspect of watching mixed martial arts since the very beginning of the sport. This is a massive evolution. This is truly the dream that boxing gave us back before pay-per-view, watching the biggest stars on essentially regular television. This is truly a new era, and the implications could be enormous for everybody in the fight community. But that's just what I think. What do you think? It sounds like a pretty popular move, but I'd love to hear in the comments your thoughts. Like and subscribe for more reaction type videos like this when big news hits. Hit the join button to become a member. A massive thanks to all of you who already have, and thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the beach.